Now, from the fifth floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, DFW Metroplex. This is Michael Kruizinga, your local Dallas-Fort Worth area realtor, and this is Inside Real Estate. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be talking all things real estate today. Hopefully we're going to toss in a little sports and entertainment, and maybe we'll get to a little bit of sports early on because sometimes we miss it at the end of the show. We're so busy talking about our real estate topics. So today is July 19th, 2015, and I always like to start off with a little bit of this day in history. A huge history buff, just like I'm a huge sports buff, and I always just find looking back in history, we find so many amazing things, and it reminds us of how we got to where we are today and where we're going. And I usually like to go to a little bit of sports. So, hey, this day in history, 1877, first Wimbledon championship match. And there was 200 spectators, and what it cost to get in, $1 shilling. $1 shilling to get into the Wimbledon back in the day, 1877. A fair bit more now, you might say. This one was interesting. One of my favorite movies all time, Tombstone. 1879, Doc Holliday killed his first guy, and I just found this interesting because supposedly he was this big gunfighter, and supposedly it was only 8 shootouts in his whole life, and supposedly he only killed 2 confirmed people. But you know, we all think he was this big time killer back in the day. And you know what he actually did, folks? He was a dentist. He was a dentist from Atlanta, Doc Holliday. So, you know, huge Tombstone fan, and I just saw that and I had to talk about it. Super interesting there. 1927, Ty Cobb gets his 4,000th hit. You know, I love baseball. He was number 2 all time with 4,189 hits. Who was number 1 in all time hits? Pete Rose. Pete Rose, 4,256. And Pete Rose gets such a bad rap, but well, he didn't use performance-enhancing drugs, though. But we know what he did, and it's certainly frowned upon. You know, how can you do that sort of thing? But Pete Rose was all time. Hey, 1991, Cal Ripken, 1,500th consecutive game. You know, what a guy that he was. What a stand-up guy off the field. If we had more guys off the field like Cal Ripken, who also gave it their all on the field like this guy, I mean, one of my all-time favorite players. Where was he on the hits list? He was 15th all-time, Cal Ripken. So, folks, that was this day in history, July 19th, back in the day. So, website, folks, here, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. You can connect here with all of our partners, Supreme Lending Rockwall, J.C. Harder Insurance, and Millennium Title. If you want to be a part of the show, you can check us out there. You can send me an email, give me a buzz. You want to advertise on the show, you can catch up with me there as well. So that's InsideRealEstateRadio.com. What are we doing today? We've got at 8:15, we've got Mortgage Talk coming up. We've got Angela Meineke in studio, Supreme Lending Rockwall, so we're going to chat mortgage as we do every week. We got that coming up at 8:15. Coming up at 8:30, we've got our insurance segment with J.C. Harder of Goosehead Insurance. And then later in the show, Angela and I are going to talk more mortgage and real estate and how those two things are so intertwined. And it's just such a natural fit to have these guys in studio with us every week because, you know, we're both down there in the trenches doing this all the time, and we get each other, and we just get it. And so we're looking forward to that. We're going to be talking mortgage and real estate. Okay, folks, why don't we – I'd love to get to a little bit of sports. You know, I'm a huge sports buff, and you're like, well, this is a real estate show. Why are we talking sports? Well, you know what? We got to break up the monotony, folks. We can't just talk about real estate all day long. So let's get into it. Hey, what's been going on lately? Well, how about Dez Bryant, 5 years, $70 million deal? How about you? We got this guy paid. Love this guy. Great numbers, 1,320 yards receiving last year. I'm glad we got him paid. Glad we got him locked down. This guy is tremendous. Something that was kind of timely. We all remember last year, playoffs against the Packers, 4th and 2, the catch. And it was interesting. We had just recently on the radio NFL VP of officiating, Dean Blandino. He was on the radio recently this past week on one of the radio shows here in Dallas. And, of course, he gave a political answer to the question about the catch. And, folks, look, that was not only a catch. That was a catch and a TD. Okay, there was about 4 minutes left in the game. We were down by 5 at the time, and hey, that was a catch and a TD. We need to work on this rule. This is crazy. So what did he say? Well, he gave us the political answer, or he gave them on the show a political answer. And what did he say? Quote, "It's not unreasonable to watch that play and watch everything Dez did and think, that's a catch. But our rule, which I do feel is a good rule and allows us to be consistent, it's not a catch because you have to maintain control when you land. And of course, we know the rule. Of course, they're going to say that. But he did kind of throw us a bone and say, yeah, you can see it and see it's a catch. So maybe they're going to work on that, folks. It certainly would be nice. I know they're talking about it in the offseason. That was a catch and a TD in my book. Oh, my God, that was a heartbreaker. All right, well, hey, did anybody catch UFC last week? UFC 189, and I wanted to talk about this last Sunday because it was actually last Saturday, but we didn't get to it. I actually went over to Buffalo Wild Wings, and you got to get there early to get a table, and so we got there before the early rounds, and man alive, I forget how late the main card is. It was almost darn near midnight. I was there for, about 5 hours. But it was worth it. There was a lot of great fights that night. And the main card was McGregor and Mendez. And, McGregor pulled it out in the second. And honestly, he could have lost that thing. He was on the ground most of round 1 and most of round 2. And especially in round 2, he was taking knees to the face. Pretty much or elbows to the face, that is, pretty much the entire round. And it was the last maybe 20 seconds of that round that he actually pulled it out. Round 1, he stayed on his feet a little bit better, but, Mendez lost that one. McGregor was pretty lucky to get out of that one. Mendez is such an amazing takedown specialist, and he took McGregor to the ground and pounded on him like no other. And McGregor super lucky to get out of that one as well. A lot of the earlier fights were actually really good. There was several flying knees, and Lawler actually did a great job. If you're a UFC fan, Lawler's been in the business for an extremely long time. And, that guy broke his opponent's nose early on, and then later on hit that nose again for the knockout. The guy just went flying. So great UFC 189. If you didn't see any of it, go online, check it out. Yeah, I would check out the Lawler one, and then check out the McGregor, the main card as well. We talked a couple weeks ago, DeAndre Jordan was coming to Dallas, and then he turned around and didn't. I'm not sure what happened with that. He was coming back home to Texas and then decided to stay with the Clippers. Deron Williams looks like, he's going to be with us, buyout with the Nets. The Nets were wanting to get him off of payroll big time, and so it looks like he's coming. Of course, And I think we got him all wrapped up. Of course, I thought we had our other guy all wrapped up too, but we'll have to see. So anyway, folks, well, we actually got to a little bit of sports today. That was nice. So, folks, we're going to be right back with Inside Real Estate, and we're going to head straight into mortgage segment. We'll be back in a second.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate, law, and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks. Welcome back. It's Mike Kruizinga. It's Inside Real Estate website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. We're about to head on into mortgage talk. Supreme Lending Rockwall segment. We've got Angela Meineke in studio. And the website, RockyMartin.com. That's RockyMartin.com. That's RockyIE Martin.com. And the phone number over at their office where people are standing by for all your mortgage needs, all your interests there in mortgage, 866-607-5667, 866-607-5667. Angela, welcome back. How we doing?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Doing really well. Let's get into some mortgage talk.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and this kind of goes back to what you guys were discussing last week, and getting pre-qualified and having your credit ran. Well, credit scores is probably one of the biggest things used in determining the interest rate. But why is that? Okay, so back in 2007, Fannie Mae got together and they looked at why were these mortgages not performing and why were people defaulting on their loans? And one of the big things that they saw was, and this makes perfect sense to me, the lower the credit score, the less likely it is to perform and the more likely they are to default.
Sure.
So they got together and they said, well, we need to essentially, determine the risk of the credit score and then basically adjust the rate accordingly. So what came about was risk-based pricing. And they put these things in place called loan level price adjustments. And you'll hear that sometimes, LLPAs.
Okay.
So the LLPAs are basically each layer of risk that you have in a mortgage loan, they're going to add a little bit of an adjustment. So for example, credit score. You can qualify for a mortgage at a 620 credit score, okay? But because it's kind of considered on the lower end of the spectrum, you might pay a little bit more for that.
Sure, understood. So basically lower the credit score, you're going to pay a little bit of a premium because you're a little bit higher risk according to your credit profile. And folks, I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with our mic. Let's bring Angela back in here. There we go.
So for example, what happens is on a $200,000 loan, if you have a 620 FICO, the standard loan level price adjustment is 3%. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay 3% higher in interest rate. What that means is there's a 3% adjustment that's going to be applied to that particular mortgage. 3% of $200,000 is $6,000. Okay. Now, if you have a 740 credit score, there is no adjustment whatsoever. So you can see the difference in how you could potentially pay a lot more if you have a low credit score.
Sure.
But the good news is, like I said, number one, you do actually qualify. We can qualify you at a 620 FICO score, and we can work with you. So if you have a 620 credit score, it may not take much to get up to a 650. And there are tiers. So for example, think of it like grading in college. 100 to a 90 is an A. 89 to 80 is a B, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
It's the exact same situation. So if you have a 620 credit score, like I said, we can get you into a mortgage. We can look at the price adjustments, and then we can also look at your credit score. And it may be something very simple like, paying down a credit card. If you have a credit card with a $500 limit and your balance is $495, it may be as simple as paying $150 extra toward that balance of that credit card, and it would actually give you 10 to 15 points on your credit score, to where all of a sudden now, instead of a 3% price adjustment, you have a 2.5% price adjustment or a 2% price adjustment. So if you give us a call, we can work with you. We can look at your credit score. We can make the determination of if there's room for improvement and tell you exactly what needs to be done to get the scores up.
Exactly. And folks, that's why we work with the best at Supreme Lending, Rockwall, because they take the time to answer all of your questions, and they take the time to ask you questions to figure out your situation. Because like Angela just said, you may have some minor stuff on your credit that can be easily rectified to boost your scores. And, these credit scores, they are impacted by the most minor of things.
They really are.
Honestly. And folks, there's just so many things that, go to our credit. We forget about automatic payments. Maybe a credit card gets expired, and then those payments get late fees on them, and you get hit. These are things that can really be rectified. Let Angela and her team look through these things, and they can get it boosted for you. So again, if the lower the credit score, you're going to pay a premium a little bit, but interest rates are so low right now. It's not like that premium is so bad or makes it so unaffordable or a deterrent to be a buyer.
Right. And so really, all you need to do is give us a call and let us work through your credit score. Like I said, I was explaining to a first-time home buyer yesterday, matter of fact, that, the credit bureaus don't report daily. In other words, your creditors don't report every single day. So the balances on your credit cards is very, very important to keep track of. You may go out and charge, $1,000 on a credit card that has a $1,500 limit. And you think, okay, well, I'm just going to pay it off as soon as I get the bill. Well, unfortunately, the credit bureaus or the creditor that you charged on may only report once every 35 or 40 days. We don't know exactly when they report to the bureaus. So at that moment that you have $1,000 balance on a $1,500 limit, maybe the day that they report. But you're going to turn around and pay it off, and you pay it off within a week. But unfortunately, when you pay it off, that doesn't reflect. It reflects that day that you made that charge. We don't know. Exactly. So it's very important to, let us take a look at the balances on credit cards. And like I said, it may be something so simple as just paying an extra $150, $250 toward one of the balances on your credit cards to get your scores up anywhere between 10 to 15 points.
Gotcha. And let me throw this out there at you. Since the recession, we're running across a lot of buyers out there that have had some hits to their credit. I know you work with credit repair people, so if there was something serious, you can get them hooked up with a credit repair person if it's something you guys can't knock out yourselves, to get them squared away. And give me a little bit of information about how that process is, because usually it could be a 3-month process, it could be a 6-month process, or unless, if they have something serious on their credit, and a lot of people think they come to me and say, hey, I got hit in the recession and they had a foreclosure. When am I going to be able to buy?
Right. And we can look at that. And we actually have a really cool program, and it's a free program that we're able to run, without kind of outsourcing, your information. And And what it does is of course, we pull all 3 credit bureaus. There's 3, there's only 3 credit bureaus. There's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You have 3 credit scores. As a lender, and all lenders will take the middle of the 3 credit scores. But what we have is a program that will allow us, number one, like I said, to pull all 3. You get a very detailed report. We can go through that report with you line by line to tell you exactly what's on it. Sometimes people don't even know what's on their credit report. And that's a very important thing, is to monitor it. Mm-hmm. Again, we'll pull it for free. We'll go through it with you for free. And then the next step that we could possibly do is we have a what if simulator. In other words, once that credit report is in our system, we can go in and say, well, what if, they pay this collection account off? And it immediately gives us a real-time score improvement of what the score could be if we paid that off. Or what if, we went in and paid $200 towards a credit card balance? What would that do to the score? Gives us an immediate improvement of what that score could be. And if you go in and pay that $200 like we're advising you to, it could take as little as 5 days to improve that score.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a 30-day or a 60-day or 3-month process. Now it can, like you said, depending upon the severity of, the trade lines is what each individual item is called. Depending on the severity of the trade line, it could be a long time. But like I said, in these situations where we go in and make the determination, it's just something really, really simple. We can get it updated and improved within a matter of 5 to 7 days.
And that's huge, folks, because, I don't know if you just heard what Angela said here, because everybody's credit situation is different. Everybody's life is different. So she can take and plug your life into this simulator, and, you got multiple credit cards, bills, etc., and maybe you're trying to do something that you think is going to impact your credit score that is not,
Right.
Honestly, these guys are the experts, and she can put it into her system and say, hey, why don't you shift a little bit of the money you're spending this month and next month from what you're doing over here, do it over here, and hey, guess what? We're going to boost your score, and by boosting your score, we can get you a better interest rate. And even though we're talking about small percentage points of savings, it does, if they're looking at a 15, 30-year product, of course it adds up over the life of the loan.
Absolutely.
But again, it's, it shouldn't be a deterrent as a first-time buyer, but this is just such a great tool, folks. And not everybody has that. Not everybody's willing to take the time to plug it in, plug your situation into a simulator, and figure out how to help you. This is huge, folks, and that's why we work with the best over at Supreme.
Yeah, and like I said, even if you do qualify for a mortgage, and we know we can get you pre-approved, and it's a slam dunk deal, and you're comfortable with the amount of down payment, and you're comfortable with the interest rate. That's one of the things that we can do, is we don't mind taking that extra step just to say, hey, you've got your middle score is a 626 FICO. You qualify for a mortgage. We've got you pre-approved. You can put as little as 5% down, and here's your interest rate, here's your monthly payments. But what if we just take a quick look, no cost to you, totally free, at getting you a 640 credit score? And, lo and behold, it only takes $50 extra. Well, all of a sudden now your payment has come down a little bit, saving you money each month. Your interest rate is just a little bit better, and overall you're in a better situation.
Absolutely. And again, folks, Supreme Lending, Rockwall, that's why we work with these guys. They're the best in the business. Folks, we're going to be right back with Inside Real Estate, and we're going to head into insurance. See you in a few. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032. Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
Millennium Title Carroll PC Real Estate is a unique multi-service real estate title, law, and real estate investment firm that handles over 150 commercial and residential closings each month. Their real estate, legal, and tax services range from purchases to refinances to short sales and reverse mortgages. They can handle all of your real estate, legal, and tax planning needs. Their experience offers clients and investors a comprehensive perspective in managing their real estate law and investment needs. Visit txtitleattorney.com, that's txtitleattorney.com, or call 817-310-0136.
Heritage, tradition, strength. Some of the core values found in Dallas-Fort Worth. KSCS is proud to be the longest-running country station in the Metroplex. This is Tony King, sales manager of the great KSCS. Our advertisers know that our strengths are theirs, and our traditions matter to our listeners. I'm looking for individuals that can put the power of KSCS to work for companies in Dallas-Fort Worth. I need salespeople that have experience and can communicate with passion the value our audience can represent to their business's success. Email me to take the next step.
Are you a seller that believes in heritage, tradition, and strength? Are you up for the challenge to be on the KSCS sales staff? Email Tony King to get your foot in the door. Tony.King@Cumulus.com. That's Tony.King@Cumulus.com.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
All right, folks, welcome back to Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga, and it's time once again for one of my favorite segments, our insurance segment. Good friend J.C. Harder is in studio with us from the J.C. Harder Goosehead Insurance Agency over in Uptown on McKinney, just around the corner from my office. The website is jcharderagency.com, jcharderagency.com, and the phone number at his office, 214-643-6108, 214-643-6108. JC, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. I want to take a few minutes this week and focus on motorcycle and ATV insurance. With the summer here, the long summer hours, you can get some good riding hours in. And just kind of want to hit some, stuff you probably already know, but, maybe we'll hit some points that, you're not familiar with. So as far as, being just under our Goosehead Insurance brand, we have access to over 10 different motorcycle and ATV companies. So for one thing, that's the power of choice. We can give you multiple companies, multiple rates, and some of those motorcycle policies are better than the others. So depending on how much you want to spend and how much you ride, we can really build that policy for you. Just like automobile insurance, you're required to have state minimum limits for your liability coverage that makes you legal while driving. If it's maybe a really old bike, you can forego full coverage, but we always want to push that full coverage, that comp and collision coverage. So not only are you legal, but your bike is protected in case, something was to happen. Typically with the motorcycles as well too, it's not that much of a price difference. So really take your time, call me, call my wife, Patty. My father-in-law, Patricia's father, is a huge Harley rider. And I've learned so much just, at family gatherings here in the last 6-8 months that really plays into, our everyday life here. Another example of kind of the perks or the better insurance carriers out there is a lot of your motorcycle owners have upgrades or tricked out custom parts to their motorcycles. Well, if you didn't let your agent know that or spend much time with them, in the event of a claim and saddlebags, upgrades like that are stolen or damaged and you didn't report those, then you're going to have an upset claims situation there. So custom paint jobs, lights, chrome packages, saddlebags, GPS, everything that's an upgrade to the policy, make sure your agent knows that, to avoid future headaches there.
Yeah, it's a great point, JC, because I'm a Harley rider myself. I'm on an 04 V-Rod right now, and man, that thing's quick. By the way, it is fast. But as a MC rider, it is all about tricking out your motorcycle. And even if you're a more conservative rider, you're still putting value into your bike above and beyond factory. And honestly, that's all we think about all the time is, what else are we going to do to our bike? What else are we going to do to our bike? And we may forget, although we're spending thousands of dollars adding aftermarket onto our bike, we forget to update our policy so that we're covered. And so we need to make sure we're calling JC and letting them know, hey, I just threw $2,500 at my bike again. And so you can take care of us, right?
Absolutely. And most of your big, better companies out there will have, blankets for those limits. So it can, if you're at that $25,000 or $3,000 range, we can play with those numbers to make sure it's all correct there. Another common mistake is some people think that motorcycles are covered under their home insurance policy, or, those saddlebags and upgrades are as well, and try to, claim it on their homeowners in case of weather situations or fire, or more often or not theft. But again, that's why you want to take some time, build the perfect motorcycle policy for you, because it is not covered on any other policy except that motorcycle policy.
And another thing why, having the right policy for your motorcycle is really important is because, honestly, a lot of accidents occur in parking lots as it relates to a motorcycle because, a lot of people are driving these big SUVs and they just aren't paying attention, and they can hit your motorcycle pretty easily, and you can get some pretty significant damage just in the parking lot somewhere all the time. So, as a motorcycle rider, we're constantly battling to be seen out there. Luckily, we're nimble when we're on the road and we can, move around fairly well. But, when it's sitting there in the parking lot and you're in the store or in the restaurant, things happen, right?
Absolutely. And again, that's another reason why you want to take some time, spend a few extra dollars a month to avoid the headache on the back end. Now, one other type of coverage I want to hit on is for you riders that like your road trips, maybe going up to Sturgis for the big party and everything. There's a coverage called mechanical breakdown or roadside assistance. Typically, again, it's very cheap, but it's got very good value. So if you're on that long trip and your bike does, break down in a sense, then that coverage will fix the bike and pay for your lodging, food, transportation until it's all complete. So very good value for very little premium.
Yeah, that's great because, things happen on our motorcycle and, unfortunately when you're riding a motorcycle, it's not as easy to just kind of drive it on into the shop like you do your car. A lot of times you're just stuck wherever you are. And there are a lot of programs and packages out there that offer roadside assistance, but I don't think anything that's going to compare to what you can get when you're putting together the right package, especially with JC.
Yes, that's correct, Mike. Last thing, let's talk about some ATVs real quick, where those are not a street legal vehicle. I still recommend covering those at all costs, especially for your hunters that, maybe it stays at the ranch for a few months a year and not at the house. Well, a lot can happen while you're gone. And if you have the coverage, correctly, then again, you're going to avoid all claim headaches if it was damaged by weather, stolen, got shot, for in a sense, on a hunting ranch. So take some time, spend the extra couple bucks to make sure that ATV does have the full coverage and covered correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these ATVs, these Polarises, all types of ATV vehicles out there,
especially if we're putting that out on our deer lease and whatnot. I mean, these things cost as much as, cars these days. I mean, $15,000, $20,000 you can drop for a really nice ATV that you might park out at your deer lease and you use it 5 or 6 times a year. And, the odds of it getting some kind of damage sitting out there all by itself, stolen or otherwise, are pretty good. And so, yeah, make sure you're talking to JC so that is covered, because, you got a $15,000, $20,000 asset sitting out there, and you'd hate to see it just go kaput.
Absolutely. Then last part about ATVs is take the PIP or injury medical bills coverage on that. Worst case scenario, you have kids at the ranch, friends of your kids, things like that, and they're driving, and maybe they're not the most experienced, and if they do flip it, things do happen. Either those medical bills are coming out of your pocket, or you can file it on your insurance carrier there. So even though it is not a street legal vehicle, we always recommend as much coverage as possible for your ATV and your toys there.
Absolutely. And, folks, we don't need it until we need it. So, plan ahead, whether it's motorcycles, ATVs, whatever the case may be. You don't want to wait until you need it to need it. So take care of it in advance. Get with JC. Get your coverage squared away on all your toys. It's been JC Harder from the JC Harder Agency, Goosehead brand over in Uptown. And website's jcharderagency.com, and phone number over at the office, 214-643-6108. Thanks, JC, for being here again for the insurance segment. Folks, we'll be right back with Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Are you concerned that there's another bear market coming? The 2008 stock market crash wiped out 12 years of gains in just 17 months. The time to protect yourself is now.
This is Ken Moraif, host of the Money Matters radio show, inviting you to our next free seminar.
If you're retired or retiring soon, don't miss it. Choose 7 p.m. this Tuesday, July 21st in McKinney, 7 p.m. Thursday, July 23rd, Fort Worth, or 1 p.m. Saturday, July 25th, Plano. Please reserve at moneymatters.net. That's moneymatters.net, or call 800-994-0302.
Join Pastor Robert Morris Sundays at 4 p.m. on 570 KLIF as he teaches from the Bible and helps us navigate some of life's toughest subjects. Pastor Robert Morris in Gateway Church, Sunday at 4 p.m. on 570 KLIF.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Number here in the studio, if you want to give us a shout, 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF, 5543 on the backside. So if you want to give us a shout, we can talk title, we can talk mortgage, we can talk real estate. So feel free to holler at us. So, hey, we usually do a featured listing segment every week if we can. And so got a new listing we picked up yesterday out in Plano. And, of course, real estate in Plano is always running like hotcakes. 3913 Chimney Rock. We just put this on yesterday. We don't have everything into the system yet because we're still waiting on the photos from the professional photographer, but this is kind of over Independence and Parker area. Going to be a 422, square footage is 2537. Super big lot. It's on a cul-de-sac. It's got that larger cul-de-sac lot. It's got a really nice pool. It's a diving pool plus a slide on it. Radiant barrier, 40-year roof. Great property. We got it listed at $287,450, and so great listing over there. So if you're looking at something in Plano 4-bedroom, around 2,500 square feet with a pool. This thing's going to go fast. So, hit the website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, and hook over to me. And, we can talk about that, get you in to take a peek at that property. And, folks, that's one thing that we can do. It's just featuring your property on the radio show and, take advantage of all the additional advertising that we do for our clients. We always do professional photo shoots, and the bottom line is, really pictures sell real estate, and how to capture the essence of a property. And that's why we work with the best in the business. We work with the best in insurance and in title and in mortgage, and we do is with photographers as well. And getting the right people out there to capture the essence of your property, and then being able to take that and market it to drive traffic to your listing. That's what we specialize in. It's what I specialize in. My background is marketing. I was corporate marketing forever. And, so, hey, why not have your realtor who's an expert in marketing be the one to sell your house? That's just a thought, folks. Give me a shout. Hey, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, and then you can hook over to my DFW Metroplex real estate website, and all my information is there. So, what's going on? Say June. June, we had a record high, 12% up in June, year over year, and we still lead the nation here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as far as residential sales. So we're doing really good. Before we get back into some of these other real estate topics, I just want to hit a little bit of title talk. We usually have a small title segment every week when we can. Millennium Title is, our preferred lender, our exclusive partner. Their website, txtitleattorney.com, txtitleattorney.com. Their number, 817-310-0136. Nancy Carroll is an attorney, and she is our preferred provider over there at Carroll PC Real Estate and Millennium Title. And so what is title insurance? We get that question a lot. Why do we have to have it? It's an extra cost. And, and there's a couple types of title insurance. You got the owner's title policy, and that protects, the owner from title defects. And, generally the title company is going to take care of all the searches and make sure the property's clean to transfer, or otherwise the sale doesn't happen anyway. Are there liens on the property? Are there mechanic liens, et cetera? What are mechanic liens? A roofer doesn't get paid. Somebody does a job on your house, they don't get paid. They can put a mechanic's lien on your property. So the title company, they research all these things and make sure it's, clean so that they can transfer the title. But sometimes if there's been a lot of property transfers with this particular property, they may not see everything. And so this is when title insurance comes into play. So if somebody in the future comes back and tries to lay a claim on your property, you go back to title insurance, and they try to figure it out. So that is essentially what title insurance is. And, when we have Nancy in studio, we can talk about, deed restrictions, encumbrances, liens in more depth. She's an attorney, so we'll talk with her about that. But in a nutshell, that is why we have title insurance. Now, additionally, there is lender's title insurance. And, in Texas, it's pretty typical that the seller agrees to pay for the owner title policy. That's a negotiable item in the contract. But the lender's title policy, if you're putting a mortgage on the property, that is, usually it goes into closing costs. And it's a lesser priced title policy than the actual owner title policy. But, again, it is there. And so those are, what title insurance are in a nutshell. Again, when we have Nancy Carroll in studio, we can get more in depth with that. But her website, txtitleattorney.com, txtitleattorney.com, phone number 817-310-0136 for all your real estate needs. And she does commercial, she does everything, and she's an attorney, so check her out. She's good for all of it. So let's get into some other real estate topics, and then we're going to get back Angela here in a few minutes. From Supreme Lending Rockwall to talk, get the mortgage perspective. And don't forget, Their website, rockymartin.com, phone number 866-607-5667 at their office, and they're always standing by for all of your mortgage needs, okay, folks? All right, what's going on in real estate? Viridian, that master planned community over in North Arlington, Viridian, it was just bought. It was just sold. Johnson DevCore, which is a Houston and Toronto capital group, they ended up purchasing it. It's a 2,000-acre planned community. Obviously, it's been there. Basically, we just had an ownership change there, folks. But that was pretty interesting. If you know that Viridian area, there's about a 10,000 square foot event center over there. There's a pool. They got basketball courts, tennis courts. A really nice community. We've been active in that community before. But just interesting ownership change there. We've got a new apartment community coming into North Dallas, Midtown Park. Going to be just east of North Central Expressway. About an 18-acre project, and they're looking to build 16 apartment buildings over there, probably about 400 units. This is an area that they started this project a long time ago. It's north of Presbyterian Hospital, and there was an ownership change because of the recession. But now they're firing that thing up again, and we talked a couple weeks ago about how there's super high rent demand and not a lot of properties out there. And so, again, relief's on the way for the renters, but it's going to be a long time coming, folks. And so that finding a rental is still going to be tough, and the rent prices are still going to be high. So, again, while that's happening, folks, it's a great time to look at buying. Get out of the rent race, get out of the rat race, and, let's get you into a home. And, that kind of ties into this Forbes article that was out there, kind of talking to the baby boomers and their millennial children, trying to get them out of their houses as well, because the rent demand's high. They're moving home. Well, move into your own house, for crying out loud. Interesting article in Forbes, and it's talking about these kids. Get them out, and they call them millennials. The baby boomers kids. Baby boomers, I call them the late bloomers for those millennials. And let's get Angela back in here. How can we get these folks into houses?
Well, obviously they need to, take the leap and give us a call first and foremost, so that we can kind of coach them in the right direction. And, speaking of the millennials, they spend so much time in college, and they're so devoted to, getting through college, getting good grades, and getting that degree, that oftentimes, like we were talking before the show, that they're not really prepared for the real world, so to speak, and they spend so much time listening to the professors and the lectures and things like that. Well, we're essentially professors. We're teachers in the mortgage business, because when you've got somebody that really, truly just doesn't have any idea about how a mortgage works or how interest rates affect payments and so on and so forth, they need a teacher to guide them, profess to them exactly what it takes to qualify for a mortgage. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, that, we can essentially take them step by step. So here's step one, go apply on our website. It's rockymartin.com, Rocky with an IE. And once we get that application, we'll go in, pull the credit, and we'll have a sit down, face-to-face if need be, discussion about, okay, here's where you are, and teach them exactly what it takes to get to where they need to be to purchase a home.
Exactly. And it's funny because this Forbes article, it was a step-by-step to the baby boomers of how to help them get going, get out of paying that high rent. If you're a baby boomer that's lucky enough to have your kids out there and they are renting, but you want to get them out of the high rent situation, or you just want to get them out of the house, step by step, how to go through that. And, look, it's complicated, so baby boomers, why not get your kids over to Supreme Lending?
Right.
And we'll take care of it for you. We'll go through it all, and then we'll get with our real estate team. We'll get out there. We'll find them the right property for them, whether it's a starter property or a mid-range property, because a lot of the millennials are foregoing the starter property because they're starting a family already in a rental. Right. Generally you might try to find that home before you start a family, but a lot of them have been forced to kind of start the family in a rental situation and then move into a house just because of the type of inventory that we have, as well as the overall market situation.
Yeah, and I know that specifically in the town that I live in, you can oftentimes purchase a home with a mortgage payment, property taxes, homeowners insurance, everything combined for less than what you can rent for. And a lot of people don't know that they actually could qualify for a mortgage. We have several different programs that allow for no money down. And so if people think, hey, I don't have the money for down payment, it requires 20%. That's not the case. It requires, 740 or 800 FICO scores. That's not the case either. And like I said, once we put all of the numbers to paper, you will actually end up saving money by purchasing a home rather than paying rent.
Exactly. And so many people do think that it's not obtainable. Right. They think it's a hassle. And, folks, look, life is a hassle. You got to go through the work to get the reward. And that's just the same thing with buying a house, getting out of the rent race. Look, you can do it. We've got the team to help you do it. And, hey, property taxes, at least right now, are still tax deductible. You never know when that may change. And that's always up in the air, all the time. But right now, they're tax deductible, folks, and that interest as well on the mortgage. So, honestly, every year, that's a huge win, on your tax return. But you're not getting any of that benefit at all renting. You're getting no benefit at all. You're not paying into an asset at all. They are facing millennials, that is, unemployment rate of about 8%, and they're about $1 trillion in student loan debt. And so that is an issue out there. But, with our folks at Supreme, they're able to help you, like I said, put your situation into the simulator and figure out how we can move things around for you so we can get you into a property.
Exactly. And, oftentimes when millennials do have student loans and they're high payments and they have to then start making those high payments because they've graduated, the student loans are no longer in deferment, but, they have a good job. Or they have, an offer letter for a good job, and they're going to be making a high monthly gross income, which is what we use to determine the amount of, house they can afford, so to speak. If they're making enough monthly and all they have is student loans, we can put that into the simulator, like you said, work it up to see exactly what the payment would be on, a typical mortgage, include their student loans, and then give them their total debt ratio. If the total debt ratio is below, 45 to 50%, and that's gross monthly income before taxes are taken out, then like you said, they absolutely qualify for a mortgage. Or oftentimes people come to me and say, well, how much of a house can I buy? Well, depending upon the situation, sometimes on paper, you can buy a $500,000 home because you don't have other debt to be included in the total overall factor.
Sure.
But do you want a, $3,500 a month house payment? I mean, is that feasible for your budget?
Exactly.
Maybe not. So that's one of the things that we have to determine whenever we're sitting down and talking with people is, okay, well, yeah, you can qualify for a $500,000 home, but realistically, do you want to pay, that much money out each month on that house? Or would you be more comfortable paying, $1,500 or $2,000?
Exactly.
And if that's the case, then we can give them the range in which to go look for homes so that whenever they come back to you, the real estate agent, they'll say, well, I need to keep my price point around X because I know that I need to keep my monthly payments around this mark.
Exactly. And that's why, folks, when you call in and you're buyer and you're getting started, that's why we always like to try to get you over to our folks at Supreme. So between, the realtor, myself, and between our team over at Supreme, we can figure out your situation. Because, if you say, hey, if you're like in the article we talked about a couple weeks ago, where you're in that kind of average rent for DFW, which is kind of around $1,500, $1,400, if you're in Uptown or some of the more posh areas, it's much higher. But average DFW, you're around that $1,400 to $1,500 mark, and you say, hey, that's what I want to pay. I want to be at about $1,500. Well, what does that translate into a sales price?
Right.
And it's not just the sales price because, like you said, we got to roll in property insurance and
property taxes
and insurance, et cetera. And then what if there's HOA dues? We have to add those things in there. So, what does $1,500 translate into? Well, it depends on your interest rate, of course, what you're going to qualify for. But, that's roughly going to be around $165, $170, depending on your interest rate. You could get to about that point. So, folks, that's why we get you to Supreme Lending. We want to figure out your situation and see how we can help you, and so how we can take the time to get you squared away, right, Angela?
Right, to walk through it step by step. And one of the biggest things that I'm asked on the mortgage side when you're talking about pre-qualifying somebody is, well, I see online that, the average interest rate is 4% or 4.1. Well, if we're not able to offer that, we will explain exactly why, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the layers of risk involved.
Exactly.
But when you understand it and it makes sense, then it's a whole lot easier to swallow, and everything is laid out up front so that by the time they're writing that contract, everybody's happy.
Exactly. Again, folks, that's why we work with the best at Supreme Lending, Rockwall. Folks, it's been another great show. Inside Real Estate, InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. This is Mike Kruizinga. We'll see you next week.
News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. 0.3 FM HD2. 0.3 FM HD2. 0.3 FM HD2. 0.3 FM HD2.